just throw words around, but at the same time, simultaneously, you gotta work your ass off. Because people think good things come to those who work their asses off, not to those who wait.
Wow, I mean, that manifestation part hit me too because I think nowadays, we are exposed to a lot of information that we aren't, we never had before. And yeah, I guess, you can manifest, but also you have to put the manifestation into action. So I definitely agree with that. I like the 5-step bullet point you gave, especially having discernment. You have to research your own knowledge. So if you tell me the sky is green, I gotta go find out myself that the sky is green instead of just me blindly just listening to you. I have an elder in New York. His name is Baba. And I remember when I seen him in September, he was like, all the stuff that I'm telling you right now, he's like, go research it. He's like, yo, I'm still learning too. I don't know everything. I'm still learning. So that's a great concept that you touched upon.
Baba's an incredible person, and things he says are mostly true. And it's funny to think, but it's true because even if he's saying it's green, maybe you go outside and you're like, actually it's teal. And that's okay too, because no one's truly gonna have the same exact perspective as you do, almost ever.
Yeah.
So I think that within that, like you said, like he's a good mentor. So it's another key thing I would say. A key is to have people around you who are successful in the things that you want to do, or who you think are at a higher level than you. Because if you're always around people who are at your same level or lower than your capacity, it's like you're not going to truly expose yourself to the level of your higher being that you really can. So you should always reach for that and remain teachable. I promise that to myself, that I'll remain teachable.
Wow, that definitely does make sense. It's funny because I know the saying, your circle determines where you at, yeah. But it's one thing to like hear it all the time, but when you actually living in it, you get to see like the causes and effects. Like your circle determines where you're gonna be or where you are.
Well, speaking of that, I have a question for you. So, since you're into mass incarceration and fighting for the rights of people, you're an activist. In your circle, are there people in your age group that's you said that are into that or are inspired to be that or doing that?
In my age group per se.
Or your circle, that's in your age group.
So I do have a couple of people around me who are very passionate about social justice altogether. It may not be that they are niched into mass incarceration, but they are 100% about the people, 100% about freedom and just you being able to fly, like rocket off in what you're passionate about. One of those people I would say is, her artist name is Aura de la Luna, and even if you listen to her music, you can hear it in her lyrics that, like one of her last songs is called Fire, and it's about how the world's on fire and how you truly need to listen to your own intuition and be grounded to get through these really huge hardships and traumas that we're going through right now. So I'm really proud to have people like her around me who really push this vision of creativity, love, abundantly, and living in the present joyfully. So I can't say some people. Also Sam, for example, she's a designer. She's somebody I went to middle school with, and it's incredible to be growing alongside her and see how she's like developed her vision in fashion, let alone like within herself and being a woman. Then I have people like my brother, who's 5 years older than me, Marien Morales, and he just developed his own pinball game and sold out of it. And it was all because, and it was because he focused on his vision. Like people were telling him this, like, oh, you're too focused on it, or oh, I think you should do it like this, and he just followed his own vision, and he's more than excelling. So I'm really proud to be one of the people I got. And y'all, like, it's incredible to see you guys develop this podcast, let alone everything else y'all doing, photography with yourselves. They just moved into their own place. Like, y'all got no idea. Wait to see it. This is just the beginning.
We're doing our best.
I like what you said about the pinball game. So like, he had his vision. His vision was to, for example, I'm gonna drive from Florida to New York, right? And people's gonna say, no, stop at Orlando real quick. No, go to take a stop at Texas. And he's like, no, I'm going to Florida. I mean, I'm going to New York from Florida. So I admire that discipline because, yeah, people will give you their input, which is good. You know, it's always good to have input, but you know, the same people that was giving you input, you should look at them and like, okay, where are you at right now then, since you're giving me the advice. So I actually like admire that, like, because it could be hard to like stay focused and then people there's always people in your ear, you know. So he had a lot of discipline and focus, and he was like he trusted himself in the process.
Oh yeah, he's brilliant. Like in terms of being able to really pull through with what you have, I can say that we're really blessed and privileged to have the parents that we have because they've done an impeccable job at like. It's in my house. It's always been like you finish what you started. If you started something, you finish that vision. If it didn't work out, once you finished it, fine. You push it aside. You don't have to do it. Like, you don't have to be miserable. But finish what you started. So if I started my degree and I only had 2 classes left, it's like, all right, you already invested all this time into it, all this energy into it. Finish the last bit of it and see what comes of it. If you think it's horrible and you have a whole other vision, fine, you go through with that. But psychologically, it's like, it's not a stroke to your ego, but more so for your confidence to know that you will satisfy yourself. So you need to know that you did as best as you can, and look what came of that. So my brother has his own like life story, and I love him to pieces.
So that was like the theme of your household, like finish what you started?
Yes, and it's interesting because both of our parents are teachers. So we did grow up like with we're both overachievers. We definitely grew up with this like, especially in our younger years, of like this false ideology of maybe like not perfection, but it's like you came home with a B plus, you better get an A. Like what are you doing getting a B plus? Like you should definitely be working harder than that. What are you getting distracted by? And so when you're younger, you're kind of like, you see it as all this strictness, and you're like, why are you kind of trying to box me in? But really, it was the stepping stones to be able to succeed at what I'm doing now. The only reason why I see it the sky's not the limit is because my parents were always telling me that like you could do so much more. So I appreciate it a lot more now, and I know my brother does as well, than maybe when we did it. When you're younger, you don't see that like, that long...
longevity.
Yeah.
That's good, because so that helped you with your adulthood, basically.
Yes. When
And
it
your
came to
business.
that, yeah. Because then it's like, I didn't want to use the word perfection because my dad never even let me have a Barbie, because it was always this concept of like, it's a false image of perfection. Why are you going to have a Barbie? Like, you're never going to look like a Barbie. And this is the false idea that you're getting, that like you need to live up to these standards that aren't even attainable for you to be happy. Like, the happiness from within, which is finishing what you started, because you are dedicating your time and energy into that, so get it done. And always learn, always read. Reading is like, in my house is a library, like it's all about the knowledge and education and growing that.
Are you to say like your biggest inspiration and role models is your parents?
For sure. 100%. My dad's my best friend, so it's incredible to like, my dad's been going to protests and has been an activist way before I was born. So since I was like 2 and before that, I've been like his little tail, going to all the protests with him and learning and meeting these people who inspired me. And when you're a teenager, you might detour a little bit from that experience because you might think like, oh, I want to be different. I don't want to be like my parents. And so I had thought at some point in high school, I'm like, oh, I don't want to be an activist. It's just so stressful. Like, you guys look stressed. You guys are always fighting for something. Change is slow, and like I don't see like really the benefit in this. And then you learn that it's really because humanity is love, and you're always going to be in solidarity with the people who expand on that, which is love and resource and freedom for everybody. So when it comes to my dad, then I expanded on that. My mom, she's a superwoman. Like, she had me when she was in her senior year of her master's degree. Like, that's nuts, to be studying your master's degree and to be pregnant at the same time. Like, I can't even think about being pregnant right now. Like, I still got a long time to go because I can't imagine the stress, like, of just, like, creating life inside of you at the same time while you're also developing yourself in a very intense environment. So from that to like exposing me to spirituality very young, to psychology, to being open to talk, to being okay with like being a powerful woman but also being graceful, like it's a huge balance to that I see my mom back, like I see her do that in full force every single day, and it's incredible.
She exposed you to spirituality, you said?
Yes, in her own ways, for sure. Like, she might have not called it exactly that when I was younger, but she was always open to the self. Like, she's done yoga for years. My dad had gotten sick when we were younger, and she was the one that did a lot of the research on, with my dad, on holistic medicine, on healthy lifestyles. My dad went vegetarian for 8+ years.
Wow.
They were juicing, they were doing the Gerson method. Like, to see that as an 8-year-old, and to see my dad going from being like literally and canceled but on his deathbed, to see him playing tennis and how he is now, he's a black belt in karate. Like, it's crazy to see that advancement, just because they decided to hone in on self-healing and balancing that with, yes, there's science, but there's always a balance to everything. We live in a dual reality world,
Yeah.
and they practice that.
What are the effects, positive or negative, in that?
It was very conflicting for me when I started, and it still is. Like, I battle with it daily, but someone who really helped me with that was Chad Zachary, who passed away in 2021 on Thanksgiving, which is, I think, a little bit ironic considering that he was so against capitalism. He passed away on Thanksgiving. But he was somebody who mentored me a lot through that process, because the truth of the matter is that you need to be able to sustain your way of life to be able to help others also heal. So you need to heal you to help heal others. Therefore, whatever you're doing, you need to find a way to make a living wage in a way that isn't hurting anybody. And for me, it needs to always have purpose. So that's why every piece I make is very intentional. I won't make a piece if I get a bad energy with somebody and try to order it. I'll tell them, like, go on Etsy. Etsy has a bunch of people who craft things. Like, you don't necessarily have to go through me, but I need people to know that there's a mission behind this. I'm not doing this to gain capital. I honestly haven't even really scaled truly my full business to know how much profit it would make me if I were to get some kind of labor. I make everything myself right now. So everything is truly to the capacity of, like, my creativity, and also spreading the awareness of mass incarceration. I don't ever tell people about Morales and more, and don't talk about mass incarceration. So I know that I'm getting the education and the knowledge out there, and it's not about my prices. My prices aren't large. Like, they're not.
You got good energy. This situation where, damn, that person has good energy, I'm still support them, even when I know I can get this for a little discount or a little cheaper price. So energy is very important. So when you're putting in all your, effort, intention into the products, people should know that, this is a one of a kind piece that you're getting, and you're getting it made from her. Not nobody else. Right now she's in the beginning stages and phases as usual, but it's her energy. So when you have it in your space, no robot created that, no workers, no child labor was, created that. It was her. So it's definitely important to support yourself by setting your boundaries with your pricing and value. In addition to that, I remember you told me the story about, you just told me situations where it was conflict between your friends and family and your pricing.
And it's interesting because you realize quickly throughout, like, you trying to create a business, or it's anything that has to do with, like, monetary exchange, like, who truly is supporting you because they believe in your mission, or are they supporting you because of your light, because of their independent gain. And what happens is that you have to believe in your mission the hardest. Like, that gets amplified whether it's to strangers or people you know. And at some point it'll come full circle. That's my motto. Everything comes full circle. So at some point, either you'll be at a level that people thought that you might not get to or surpass people, and they're like, oh wow, look at that one time that I didn't do X, Y, Z to support the business, and now I want to hop into that A-list party that you have access to. And it's so funny because it's like the people who really prosper aren't the people who see that gain. Like, it's just because you have this mission that you want, that you're intentful with it, you're purposeful with it, you have energy behind it. My friend yesterday, the one that actually mentored me to start Marien Morales, she was telling me, like, your biggest supporters will probably be strangers.
Oh yeah.
Like, that's very common because a stranger doesn't have these biases about, like, what your character is and where you might go or how you should do it. They just see that you're really passionate about this, and that's beautiful. Let me support that. And so it's a constant cycle.
I have a question. I have a lot to take in, but I was gonna ask, Malcolm and stuff, and I just feel like like the problem I had growing up, like getting into social justice was because everyone gives up, people give up, they're like, oh, something we can do, the whole the powerless, I call it the powerless syndrome, like people like, oh, nothing's changing, so what's the point? So like, do you have those those thoughts or those feelings when you are like pushing yourself to get to be helping or dismantling incarceration?
So learned hopelessness is quite an experience because the one thing I tell you is like, well, the one thing is promise is change, but change is slow. So you do have to be able to keep this momentum. I do have the privilege of being surrounded by my family who is always in a positive outlook of what that is and that there always will be hope. When I do feel, because I love traveling and there are a lot of times I'm not around my family and I feel like that, where I'm like, wow, like this society has been fighting so many and such decades to see change, and look where we're at now. Like for example, in the Dominican Republic, we know, or some people know the mess is going on. Like when Trujillo was in power, he did the Haitian massacre, and here we are right now, where they're still rounding up people inside of the clubs, of people who look like they're of Haitian descent, and it's insane to think that in the 21st century we're going to something like this. But what does give me hope is the youth. Like if you go, like I've gone to classrooms recently in Washington Heights, in the Dominican Republic, and you have a conversation and you realize that you're not the last people that are going to be fighting for this. In reality, it's like, again, when love is at the forefront, when you do things through love, there will always be light at the end of that tunnel. Whether I see it in my lifetime, because that's my thing, I never went into this thinking that like I would truly see the change that I want to see in my lifetime. I just always thought, I would love to have kids. I hope that they get to really experience that change and that what I'm doing now will benefit them or the next generation and so on and so forth. More humanity always, like whether that's during my lifetime or not.
That reminds me of when I traveled to Jamaica. He was in the airport, so my brother, he's light skinned, so he's lighter than me. And we were in the airport waiting to go in, like, we're in line to like exit. And a Jamaican lady, she just came, grabbed my brother like this, and just skipped him in front of everybody. And I started to realize, Jamaicans, they have the colorism like stuck in their head, so I think they also pass it down. Like, how trauma passes down. I think like certain patterns from the previous generation, it passes down to people. But like you said, the youth right now are different, so we're gonna break the pattern, break the cycle.
It's interesting because the more I travel, I see it on both spectrums. Like I recently have experienced that colorism doesn't work one way. Racism, I do believe, is against the people of darker skin complexion. If you're black, you're definitely, racism applies to you. But I have also experienced like colorism in terms of like someone who's of lighter complexion. I felt the privilege behind it most of my life. I walk around the Dominican Republic, I walk around New York, I walk around United States, and I can see that me being of lighter complexion does get me certain access to things like experiences that anybody should have. Then I've also experienced in certain cultures where like me being of lighter complexion actually immediately connects to the trauma, and me being of lighter complexion is like, you're white, you have put my people through so many traumas and catastrophes, therefore you will never be accepted into this community. And it's interesting to see like how that develops between our generations, because this is history, and history is part of your roots, so it's things that you need to know. Now it comes about like, so what do we do to change that? Because we need to heal, right? We don't want to stay stuck in that trauma.
And to add on to what you're going to say, as far as colorism, when that situation happened with my brother, I was looking at her like, I'm standing next, like, yeah, we see we next to each other, I'm standing next to my brother, and she just grabs it right next to me. I'm like, what the heck, I'm right here too, like, but nah, I'm just like, I wasn't even mad at her, because I think she didn't even know what she was doing. I think it was something in her subconscious, like, it's so deep in the subconscious, she wasn't even aware of what she was doing, like, it was just like automatic for her. But it was just, my whole family was all dark skinned on the trip, so he was the only light skinned one, so he skipped the line and stuff, and then it took us like 30 minutes. I'm like, damn.
And time's moving.
like with that situation, how did that make you feel? Like how, like you went from the opposite spectrum, like oh, like this, like did you feel like oh, this is how people go through, like they're darker than me, or like how did you?
I'm the lightest one in my mom's side of the family, so I consistently have family members and friends who go through this experience. And part of my passion comes from always wanting to raise my voice for those who are silenced. So I've always felt like my passion and my purpose is that to use my privilege to widen people's, like project people's voices that are silenced and underprivileged. When I went through that experience, it was challenging. It was a moral conflict for me because it was like, wow, like I spend a lot of my time, a large percentage, on defending and trying to raise the voices of those who are actually in this very moment telling me that I would never be accepted. And so it was difficult and it was painful because I'm like, oh, like anybody can be taken this a certain way, but what grounded me is that I know that my intention in this is pure. Like I have no intent on hurting anybody or silencing anybody.
Like hidden agenda.
I don't have a hidden agenda behind this. I'm not trying to profit off of it. There is no conflict there. But I did feel like I went through this for a certain amount of months. The pain, my passion, my fuel for like what I want to change the world to be is even stronger now. Because I'm like, okay, like I went through that. I probably needed to go through that. It sucks that I am going through that, but this isn't the end of the world. Like this just is even more fuel to the fire.
That's nice.
As I'm hearing you speak, I can hear the passion and the fire behind the words, like. And how did you like come to this point where like, okay, through the activism, incarceration, you have your products, and if you were to like tell somebody in the street who's lost right now, they don't know what their passion is, they wake up in the morning, they play PlayStation, or they hang out on the block, smoke weed, whatever, and they need a direction, and they don't have no figures in their life, what would you tell them to like do, or recommendations?
It would be
like a little, like it's like you leaving little breadcrumbs for them to like find their source.
depending on the person, because I grew up a lot of my time, like I'm from Uptown, so shout out. And then also most of my education I got it in Harlem, so I was consistently around an environment where you're like being taught that the right way to do things is be animalistic, be a savage. This is the one option that you have.
Like the beast, like a beast.
Yeah, like be a beast, or else you're not gonna make it out of here. Like you're not gonna make it out alive unless you're cold-cut, cold-blooded. Like this is the only way out. Understand that she's like, it's not that you need to shut down your savage side or that beast inside of you. What really needs to happen is you need to find a balance between that. You need to find a balance between what you call your beast and what you call your spiritual or your angelic side. There's a balance on that scale to that. It's not that neither of them will never exist, because if neither of them don't exist, then you're suppressing one of them because you're human. So there's always going to be this like scale. So what helped me understand that and practicing more was like Muay Thai, doing exercise, doing MMA, getting out that savageness of me, which the negative part of it that wants to like destroy anything or hurt anything, by getting out that tension. So when I think about a beast or somebody who's like living on that 25-8, I like saying 25-8 because it's a very symbolic number. I came down to Florida. My professor, my mentor, Baz, has been a humongous part of that, of helping me like amplify his mission, because I lost somebody so close to me, and they were so close because we had similar missions, because he was all about social justice. He was all about being able to provide full freedom, going through so much of his life incarcerated. So she actually had me coordinate a program, delegation in the Dominican Republic, revolved around incarceration, and she trusted me full on that, and I was able to visit 2 to 3 prisons, universities. I was able to show part of, she has a docu-series called Incarcerations Nations Network, and it introduces you to mass incarceration. So if you're interested in that topic, you should see that short docu-series. And I was able to project one of the episodes in my grandfather, my parents' hood, like shack houses, wooden houses hood, and that was such a fulfilling moment. And so just doing things that I know like keep that person alive and make me feel like I'm still being true to myself is what truly gets me. Between that, love, therapy, and Muay Thai.
Muay Thai.